If you're in a Dallas market and you are thinking about selling your home as a for sale by owner, otherwise known as a FSBO, this video is going to be a breath of fresh air. Because we're not going to turn this into a moral debate. Going the FSBO route is not good or bad, it's a math problem. The only question that matters is, what do you save, what do you risk, and where is a break-even point where selling as a FSBO stops being a win and starts being expensive? And we're going to answer that with real, practical numbers and a Dallas-specific logic. Most sellers think selling FSBO is simple. I save commission, I keep more money. But the truth is, commission is only one part of the seller's cost stack. And in Dallas, the biggest risks are usually not the obvious ones. It's exposure, negotiation leverage, contract landmines, appraisal issues, and concessions you didn't see coming. So today, we'll walk you through a clean scorecard: money, risk, and time. Then we'll give you the scenarios that show you the true break-even point so you can decide like an investor, not like a gambler. I'm Mark Meras, and along with my business partner Kyle Kreick, we are the co-founders of Paragon Realty Advisors in Uptown Dallas. By the end, you'll know when selling as a FSBO makes sense, when it doesn't, and how to run the math on your own house. Here's a Paragon FSBO scorecard. 3 buckets. Bucket 1, money. Not headline savings, actual net proceeds after everything. Bucket 2 is risk. The things that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars, like legal liability, appraisal failure, renegotiations, buyer games, and missed buyer segments. And bucket 3 is time. Your time, your stress, your showings, your safety, and a days on the market stigma if you misprice or mishandle a process. FSBOs can win if you score high on money and low on risk and time, but most sellers only look at money. And even then, they look at one line item: commission. So let's start with what you think you can save, because this is where the internet gets it wrong immediately. Most FSBO sellers begin with one idea: if I don't hire an agent, I don't pay commission. But in the real Dallas market, it's not that clean, because even if you sell as a FSBO, you may still end up paying a buyer's agent commission if you want access to the largest pool of qualified buyers, especially buyers who are already represented, which is a lot of them. So the real savings for many FSBO sellers is not the total commission. It might be the listing side portion, or it might be less depending on how you structure it. Then you have the question, what did you give up to get that savings? Because if your net price is lower, or your concessions are higher, or your contract falls apart, the savings evaporate. And that leads perfectly into the next piece, which is even professional listings don't net the same if the seller cost stack changes. Let's talk about the real seller cost stack. Here's what sellers forget. Your net proceeds are affected by more than commission. You've got title-related costs, potential repairs, potential concessions, and a negotiation of terms that can swing the deal. In Dallas, concessions have been a meaningful part of many negotiations. Whether it's paying for a rate buy-down, credits for repairs, or helping cover some closing costs to keep the buyer's monthly payment workable. So here's the math reality. If you save on commissions, but you give back that amount through price reductions or concessions because you didn't position the home correctly, you didn't save anything. You just changed where the money left the deal. Now let's talk about the biggest invisible risk: exposure. Not posting on Zillow, which impacts a real distribution to the buyer pool that can actually perform and close. Exposure is where FSBOs often lose without the seller realizing it. Sellers think, I'll put it online, buyers will find it. But buyers don't behave like that, especially in competitive price bands. The strongest buyers are often working with agents, and those agents are searching inside the MLS system and setting up alerts. If your home isn't positioned correctly in that ecosystem, you can miss the highest intent buyers in your band. And remember, the first 10 days window. New listings get the most attention. If your launch is weak, bad photos, unclear terms, limited showing access, you don't just miss buyers, you miss momentum. And momentum is what creates multiple offers and leverage. And even when you get an offer, a for sale by owner often underestimates what actually drives net proceeds: negotiations. Because terms can matter more than price. The best price is not always the highest price. Terms matter: financing strength, appraisal risk, option periods, repair requests, leasebacks, closing timelines, and where the buyer is likely to perform. Experienced agents don't just negotiate price, they manage risk and protect your net. FSBO sellers often agree to terms that look harmless and then get hit later. An inflated repair request, a low appraisal, a buyer who drags out the option period, or a nickel and dime renegotiation that erodes the savings. So if you're going FSBO, you need to be honest. Are you a good negotiator under pressure, with tens of thousands of dollars at stake, while also trying to move your life? Now for the less fun part, but the part that can become expensive fast: legal and liability reality in Texas. In Texas, contracts and disclosures matter. And when you're selling, you're not just negotiating, you're managing compliance and liability. Sellers have disclosure obligations. These are timelines, forms, and processes that protect both parties when executed properly. FSBO sellers can absolutely do this right, but you need to respect the process. The risk is not just paperwork. The risk is a liability if you misdisclose, fail to document, mishandle repairs, or create ambiguity in the contract that becomes a dispute later. And there's also safety and logistics: showings, access, screening buyers, managing keys, protecting your home and your privacy. These are real issues that don't get talked about enough. So let's put this all together into one thing sellers really want: the break-even point. What's the math that tells you if selling as a FSBO is worth it? Here's how to think about the break-even point in plain English. Selling as a FSBO is worth it if your additional risk and leakage costs are less than the commissions you truly avoid. So we run scenarios like this. Scenario A: you sell FSBO and save X dollars in commissions, but you accept Y in concessions and lose Z in the final price due to weaker exposure or pricing strategy. Alternatively, we have scenario B, where you list a property with a professional strategy, you pay commission, and you sell faster with stronger terms and potentially higher net because of better positioning and negotiation. The question is not which headline price is bigger. The question is which net is bigger and which outcome is safer. And the reality? In many cases, the money you think you save is within the margin of negotiation error, meaning one poorly handled repair request or one mispriced launch can wipe out that savings. Now, to be fair, a for sale by owner can make sense in specific situations. Let's define the rare cases where it's actually a good move. Selling as a FSBO can make sense if you have a highly desirable home in a high demand pocket, priced correctly with strong presentation, and you're willing to pay a competitive buyer agent commission to access a buyer pool. It can also make sense if you already have a buyer lined up, like a private sale, where the exposure piece is less important and the contract can be handled cleanly with professional help, like an attorney or a transaction coordinator. But if you're relying on hope marketing, or you're in a price band where buyers are extremely payment sensitive and negotiation heavy, selling as a FSBO becomes harder. Not impossible, just harder. And harder usually means more leakage. Before we wrap up, let's do rapid fire answers to the questions sellers ask most, which will save you from the common traps. First, if I sell as a FSBO, do I have to pay a buyer agent? Not required, but if you don't, you may shrink your buyer pool significantly. Second, can I just hire an attorney? You can, and it can help, but attorneys don't market your home or manage negotiation strategy the way a great listing plan does. Third, what's the biggest FSBO mistake? Overpricing and weak launch, missing the first 10 days window. Fourth, is selling as a FSBO easier in a hot market? It can be, but even then negotiation and risk still matter. And finally, what's the number one thing I should focus on? Net proceeds and probability of closing, not just commissions saved. If you're considering a for sale by owner in Dallas, our advice is simple: run the math honestly and respect the risks. Sometimes it can work, but most sellers underestimate how quickly small mistakes erase savings. Navigating these complex financial decisions is exactly what we specialize in. The frameworks we discussed today aren't just theories. They are the tools we use to guide our clients through the noise and protect their financial futures. If you're in a Dallas-Fort Worth market and are trying to figure out whether the for sale by owner is right for you, the noise can be overwhelming. Don't rely on a catchphrase, rely on data. Our team has a deep analytical understanding of the DFW market that goes far beyond the headlines. We can help you run those numbers for your specific situation by heading on over to www.paragondfw.com and scheduling a no-obligation consultation today. And if you found this video helpful, Make sure you give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and you will have access to all current and future content. And finally, make sure you leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. All the best.